to all the dispossessed youth of Africa, for perpetuation of communion with ancestral spirits through the fight for African freedom, and in the firm faith that the dead, the living, and the unborn will unite to build the destroyed shrines. Selah. Hello and welcome, beloveds, to another episode of Wake Up Africa. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki. How you doing? How's everything going? I really do pray that you are well in all your ways and that you're moving into living life truly on your own terms. A really, really special shout out to our Patreon family and everyone that supports us through PayPal. We appreciate, love you so much. And we do share our news. We're no longer doing news, beloveds. And, contrary to popular belief, the Dr. Mumbi Show channel is still there. We're just trying to figure out, what direction that will take in the future, but it's just there. But now we're on the spiritual journey because enough of us are awake where we can start to have a global impact, because we're a nation, beloveds. Spiritually, enough of us are awake and enough of our spiritual teams are moving us forward and moving us to make certain declaration, pray, fast, meditate, whatever, to create the necessary changes that we're seeing and to keep the protective shield that we're seeing across most of Africa. The only thing is this language thing has kind of disconnected us. So it's like Anglophone Africa isn't as connected to, it's not been done on purpose, to Francophone Africa, shouldn't even call them that, West Africa, East Africa, South Africa. It's just like, but we're connecting more, especially when we see more and more shows of our brothers and sisters from our own countries visiting other countries, and we realize just how alike and similar we are. But those are definitely stories for other days. The Babylon system is extremely scientific. It was created on scientific principles, the universal principles that run this world, and many others, some secret principles that our people documented back in the day. It's not a joke that over 90% of our artifacts are actually in Babylon libraries right now. It's a serious thing, beloveds. And so, but Babylon operates extremely systematically and extremely scientifically. And so even us, they've made us so emotional where we believe instead of knowing. They ain't believing nothing, beloveds. They're pushing that belief on you, but they know. They know what they're doing. They know the hour and the time. They know exactly who you are. But all of that has been hidden to you so that you're on belief. Belief is like a futile emotion. It's so weak, beloveds. It's like a twig. It can crack at any moment. Or it's like a leaf that can just be blown here and there. Because belief can always change. Which means you're not standing on a solid foundation. But knowing, beloveds, that's a whole different vibe. And so there are 7 pillars of the Babylon system that are kind of holding and maintaining this matrix. And if we are serious about bringing down Babylon physically, because spiritually it's done, it's a wrap, but in accelerating the physical downfall of Babylon, that really we should target these 7 pillars in our, in our agendas, in our prayers, etc., etc. Pick one, pick the one that resonates with you more, or the one that's aligned with your destiny, and really start to move in that direction. Start with just praying and meditating and declaring a new thing. So the first kind of pillar that they used against our people was religion. And they knew that if they come and they destroy our shrines, that disconnects us from who we are and totally disconnects us from our power. And that's why religion was the very first thing that came to Africa, that they brought to Africa. And they used ours, and I told you, beloveds, as they came, they were building their churches and their secret societies at the same freaking time. Some of these Masonic lodges are like over 100 years old, over 150 years old. What was really going on? And, we don't want to judge our ancestors on who did what, how did they get our secrets, etc., etc. Maybe the ancestors will reveal that to you, because right now it's a time of war, beloveds. And everyone is warring that their own soul and their own bloodline really makes it. So the first thing was religion. And religion was just basically to destroy our foundation, to absolutely shatter our foundation. And then they rebuilt a new foundation, because the spiritual foundation is the foundation of everything, with their false narratives, their false God, their false Jesus. Master teachers have existed. Did Yeshua exist? We can debate that for days. But master teachers who could do signs and wonders, who were the highest man, who had that Christ consciousness, have existed and will and perpetually exist even today. There are masters walking around us today, beloveds. So after religion, the next pillar is government, where they govern your mental. Because government governs everything. It governs all the other pillars, beloveds. It sets the laws, it sets the agendas, it sets the rules of the playing field. And the importance of the government was to remove the rightful rulers, the royal families, who bloodline after generation after generation after generation, special souls would choose to incarnate in that particular family, in that particular bloodline, to carry our people from great to greatness, to greater, from level to level to level. And so they shattered our royal families and our kingdoms, and then literally overlaid them with their nation states. And beloveds, if you look at it, we never got freedom. Because the freedom that the African freedom fighters were asking for, they wanted our nations back. They wanted our kingdoms back. But Babylon said no. In fact, first of all, you'll come and discuss your freedom in our parliament. So most of the divided country nations, their freedom is the Lancaster Agreement. And so they said, okay, once you become Kenya, then now you can discuss, okay, the Maasai are split between Tanzania and Kenya, so they need their nation back, and they actually owned a lot of the land. So, they knew. They had shattered our spirit to the level where we were not mature enough to do that. We were not resilient. There was no freedom, beloveds. We're still colonized. That's a reality you need to realize. But they were like, as long as you look like us, we'll colonize you spiritually, but you won't, you won't know it physically unless you awaken, and then you'll see that you're really on a prison planet. So governing the mental is not so much about the actual, the government, the leader, the people, the members of parliament, all that. It's about the system. It's a Babylon system that replaced our ancient rulers, beloveds, where even they say our gods would come and rule amongst us and take us. Especially, this is such an auspicious time. But it's so sad that many are literally fighting for their lives. A new age is here, beloveds. So many souls wanted to experience this, but coming out of the muck and the darkness is proving to be quite a tricky task. But that's basically the second pillar. The third pillar is, we can say, economic, where they start to control the work and the movement of the people. And they start controlling the time of the people. So they even come up with their own clock, working hours, resting hours, weekend, you get to chill, and they start to frame your reality even more. So already they've removed your foundation of your God, your creator, your ancestors, made it all obscure and murky. Then they've, with religion, then they come and they literally create a way for them to govern your mental from, a distance. Then the next thing they do is they could start to say, you got to work. And that's how colonialism started in Kenya. Is the Mzungu first moved in, and there was no ownership of land or anything. I really don't think our people were this naive. But the next thing is they came with their guns, germs, and steel. And then they were like, you have to pay hut tax with our money. So then our people had to go and work for them. And they didn't willingly do it either. You guys should read books like The Gulag, which is about how literally what happened in Nazi Germany happened to the Agikoyo. So after they've controlled the work and the movement of the people, then they move into creating controlling the social. So the social pillar is very important, where they create the hospitals and the social halls, and they create and the police system and the armies, and they create a whole alien social order, and they prep up some weak, some very weak spirits who love the control, and they literally are the wicked wolves that are controlling the sheeple, who have already been destroyed because they have no foundation. Their mental is being governed by a whole foreign system that they don't even understand. And now they're given a whole social order where instead of you being your own judge, you now literally have a judge outside, because we understood karma. So there are certain things you would never do because we were highly spiritual beings, beloved. You would never kill someone because you know the consequences of how it will bring you back life after life in a terrible situation. You'll have to come out of that. So the higher you grew, you would never participate on some of these things. But then with the way religion was put such a light thing, and then, they create this social order. So now you have lawyers who can argue whether you're innocent or not. It's like anything goes. And that corrupts our spirit, corrupts us spiritually. And it's not about even the corruption, it's what the corruption keeps you from. Because, spirit lends us their power, beloveds. But if you're down there doing some nasty thing, spirit, and you don't even know the name of your God, you don't even know the name of your ancestors, they ain't going to lend you their power. And they definitely ain't going to protect you in the most important of hours. Let's take a short break. We'll be right back.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, Africa.
Welcome back, beloveds, to Wake Up Africa on Dr. Mumbi Live. My name is Dr. Mumbi Seraki. Thank you so much to everybody that has subscribed to the channel, beloveds, and joined us on this brand new journey. And for all the emails that we get, all the love, we appreciate love you so much. It definitely makes it worth it. And for all of you who are still panicking, those are low vibes. Don't panic for nobody, beloveds. Some of us are doing exactly what we're meant to be doing, and we're more protected than you may think. So we're talking about the 7 pillars of the Babylon system. I said religion is one of them, followed by governing the mental, followed by economic, where they govern what you do with your time and kind of bring you into the work matrix, and they govern your movements. Then we have the social, where they create hospitals and they create police stations, etc., etc. When we already had our chiefs, so they're disempowering and destroying everything that is us. You see what I mean, beloveds? And that's why I say they overlaid our system. Everything that we see in our system, we had in a spiritual way. We had police in a spiritual way. The village was the police. We already had social order. There are so much social order that there's certain things, there's certain crimes that wouldn't have even had a word in our ancient tongues, beloveds. Things like rape don't exist in the Agikoyo language because it was not a reality. I mean, it was something that was so rare, beloveds. So after that, then they concentrate on, then they bring media. And media is basically there to constantly create, control, and feed the narrative. And so they'll just be constantly feeding the people and taking the energy of the people to run with certain stories. Because the world is first mental, beloveds. That's the first thing you need to realize. And so whoever controls the narrative controls the world. And that's why Babylon has done so much to make sure they brought those black screens to every single home across the world, and then made CNN, and CNN was the only news channel that people watched. And then now it's become the biggest propaganda channel. But because people have watched it habitually, like in certain places in Africa, it's shown in our airports, etc., they still take that for the truth when they don't know it's mind control, beloveds. So they use media and all their things, the movies, everything, because entertainment is another pillar. So yeah, media is definitely a massive pillar, and it's a massive pillar for keeping the energy going, which is what we're seeing now. Like whenever they want to, whenever they declare a disaster happening in an area or in a nation, the news cycle kind of feeds that like a tsunami, and constantly feeds what they've planned and what the witches have planned in the physical, and gives it life. That's why when we don't hook to a story, the story dies. It's like a massive wave that's coming in, and then everyone turns away, and so the wave, because there's no one looking at it, kind of fizzles out. And they drop stories. If you notice now, they're dropping stories like when we don't bite, it goes, and they bring someone else to the forefront. So there's such an agenda, and it's never been done as aggressively as it's being done now. And then another one, of course, to control and prepare the future generations to live in the matrix is education. And, because education, beloveds, especially the way a lot of African nations, we're using the education system of the 80s, of the 60s, of the 40s. We're still using the blueprint of the Muzungu, which is too slow for our children, beloveds. It's too slow, and it dumbs them down. And then they're sitting, which means they're messing up their whole body, and they're just, the whole thing. We're really slowing down when they should be just exploring nature, exploring this, and they're mashing up. They're preparing future generations. They're also weakening them with all this jargon. That's why you see ADHD, attention deficit. Yeah, because they're being taught dumb stuff. And the education one is really, really painful. And finally, entertainment, beloveds. Entertainment. It's supposed to, enter you and taint you, beloveds. Taint your own creativity. Taint your own vision. And what entertainment has done is it has totally closed the first eye, because they give you all these ideas of what the spiritual world looks like. So they'll bring the unicorns, they'll bring the dwarves, they'll bring the fairies, but it's in such a fantastical way that it kind of mashes up, because now your mind is always, that's the default. Like when you want to open your first eye and really see in the spiritual realm, or see the overlay, because when your first eye opens, you literally can see two worlds right now, the real world, the true world, the heaven on earth, and the freaking overlay of the Babylon system, which is toxic and gray and dark and like smelly, so the entertainment is just supposed to enter you and taint you and contain you. And the entertainment really mashes up your abilities to really see a higher world. Also, the things that people watch, like with the horror movies and action movies, you'll realize if you're super sensitive and if you're a healer, you really can't go horror movie level, But all of that just taints our spirit, beloveds. And entertainment also is a massive distraction. It's crazy that in Africa, every weekend, the freaking, European Premier freaking League is playing. This is what they did in ancient Rome. And ancient Rome is running things right now. And they haven't reinvented the wheel. These are the 7 pillars, beloveds. And these are the 7 pillars that we need to conquer individually and as a collective to create our own nation. We either have to rip the overlay off our own, or replace them with our own. But I think in the seasons and times, things like education, beloveds, you can't keep your children in school. You need to homeschool, and it's funny now that they're making it law to educate your children. Okay, wonderful, but we need to come up with our own curriculums, etc., etc. Many levels like that. Let me know in the comments if you'd like me to do, how do we conquer these 7 pillars? I think I'll do it anyway, but give me your ideas, and I'll definitely add them to my own. Until next time, tuka pamoja.